So we're exploring what it is to enjoy. Just noticing that when we have the intention, what happens? What does one actually do to enjoy something? It's quite paradoxical. I've been exploring it a bit myself this week. And I noticed a lot of it involves kind of stepping out of the mind that finds the fault in things. You know, what's missing, what's not right, what doesn't feel good in the body, so forth. There's just this habitual kind of vigilance or something that's going on. And it's really helpful to kind of step out of that. Let that kind of fall away. You can do that. Maybe it's a little reluctant to go away. You can explore that frontier, but it sort of enjoyment really involves setting that aside. It's very hard to enjoy while that's running. Something that's comparing your current experience to something else, which it thinks is better. Very hard. And so when that quiets, there's a kind of a release into an experience. It's kind of the energy I get is there's like something that kind of releases one into an experience in a way that, you know, the finding stuff wrong kind of holds us back a little. It's keeping some distance. And so when we kind of release ourselves into the experience, we're in it. We're truly in it. The other thing I notice is there's something brightens up a little bit. It's like, I guess, interest comes up. Something a little lighter and more playful is there in the enjoyment of something. It's subtle. It doesn't have to be. It's not you know, really a powerful kind of playfulness. It's just something brightens up. And I think, you know, in terms of learning this practice, the word mindfulness, in terms of like noticing what's happening, often seems to me like it's just slightly off the mark. At least in terms of what that connotes to me. And it's not about the word itself. It's about the connotations that it has in one's personal universe. And so there's a lot of intention to notice and to be present, and you get these sorts of instructions. And what's interested me lately is those moments when it's not just about observing things, but you're actually in them. And your heart is engaged. It might be another way to put it. Your heart is engaged in the experience. And when I say that, I even feel a little bit of brightening inside. I feel a little bit of joy already, just to say, the heart is engaged. The heart is engaged in breathing. It's engaged in feeling whatever that sensation is that's in the heart sometimes, that energy, that effervescence you can sometimes find there, or maybe you feel it in your hands, just the warmth of your hands against your legs, and something just warm and familiar about just being there. It can be very, very simple. But it's like the heart is engaged. It's not necessarily engaged in just noticing and bare noticing. So that's become interesting to me, to notice that difference. And to notice the different kind of noticing that happens when your heart is engaged. I can't really put a word around it, the different kind of noticing. I just feel it. There's a brightness and alertness. So that's often what I notice in terms of just enjoying. I also notice that there's not reaching for something else. It's so important to notice when you're seeking in your meditation, seeking something, seeking pleasure, for example. You want to be comfortable. You want it to feel good. It doesn't feel good. Your mind's telling you it doesn't feel good. All that, not enjoying. So, I mean, it does help enjoyment if you're not uncomfortable. But you can also explore just the frontier of being satisfied with what's present. Just taking satisfaction. You can take a satisfying breath just right now, you know? Nothing, it doesn't have, you don't have to make it something special. You could make it deeper than usual or something, but and see if you can identify what I mean by just that little bit of brightening that happens. It's subtle. And sort of what follows, with enjoyment, what doesn't, necessarily go with that enjoyment, there's relaxation, there's contentment, there's satisfaction, just in the experience as it is. And one might just wander into a fuller experience of that called wonder, which is a fuller kind of engagement of the heart with an experience. Just wonder. And just as you have to kind of let the aversive mind go a bit, you have to let that vigilant part of you that's always finding what's wrong, you have to let that sit down and relax. You also have to let go of the veil. I sort of think of it as like a thick kind of cottony veil of familiarity that's around an experience. You have to take that off. You have to pull that away to really be engaged with an experience, to not take it for granted. We don't have to keep searching for the novel. We can actually be in wonder at the most ordinary thing, which is not novel in a sense. I encourage you this week to explore breathing. Breathing is certainly not novel. It's been going on since you were ejected from the womb. But when your heart is engaged, it's fresh. And there's a not taking it for granted. That's really key to the experience of enjoyment, not taking something for granted. you also have to restrain a bit the mind that wants to improve things. Again, if contentment and satisfaction are part of the essence of enjoyment, there's these things in the mind that want to like make any situation better, like I could add this to here, I could add a cup of tea to this, maybe I can turn on some nice music, I can turn down the lights, I can do blah 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 blah. There's parts of the mind that is always coming up with a better program, and it sounds like it's on the side of enjoyment. It can seduce you into thinking, oh, this is going to make this experience more enjoyable. But try it. It doesn't actually work that way, in my experience. It actually, you start feeding the dissatisfaction. You start feeding the restlessness. And pretty soon the enjoyment that started out is leaning towards, what it is you wanted to have happen and how you wanted it to be. And somehow that simplicity of contentment is not available. It's not reachable. So it's easy to get seduced out of enjoyment by the effort to improve. And in general, any kind of taking us into the future is it's an enemy of enjoyment. The mind's kind of futurizing. Enjoyment so much relies upon being present, being resting in the present as it is. So much there. There's an element of timelessness about it that way. It's not caught up in time. Like we are so much of our lives, we're caught up in time. And what a blessed thing it is to escape time. There's a practice that goes with this. If you've done Buddhist practice in retreats, you're often taught walking meditation, and it's kind of a formal practice of going back and forth in a line, and you feel the movement of the body and particularly the feet. And but there's a practice, I think, that really is helpful for enjoyment, which is ambling. Ambling. And I'm going to encourage you to try this out this week. Or actually, it's 2 weeks because I'm going to not be here next week. You go for an amble in your yard. If you have a yard, maybe you don't have a yard, you're in an apartment, so you might have to go out on the street. Doesn't matter where you do this. But it's walking without any intention to get anywhere. It's walking to just see what is there. See what you notice. The secret of ambling is not to get ahead of yourself. In the moment that you look up from what you've just looked at, there's something else, you kind of walk towards that. There's a way to it. See if you can find it. See if you can find the being in enjoyment of ambling. So there's movement there. You're not just staying with one thing. But if you just stay in the timeless now, you'll enjoy it, whatever arises. And again, you kind of have to set aside the mind that sees fault in things. Okay, so the cold, for example, it's easy for the mind to be aversive to that. You can just set that aside. It is what it is. The cold is what it is. the sand all over the side of the road or whatever, the schmutz. Just let it be what it is, you know? See if you can walk in that really sacred space of no preferences, no demand that the world be different than it is for that time of your ambling. And you'll see many wondrous things. Even, a dead leaf is a wondrous thing. A patch of ice doesn't matter. It actually doesn't matter. When you're present, when your heart is engaged, just knowing a winter amble, that's all it's about. Check it out. And just avoid those two things, the aversive mind, what it doesn't want there, and the improvement mind. It'd be so much better if I was ambling over there, that section of the yard is so much better than the one I'm in. So those two sides of the mind, the improvement side, let's get rid of this. This isn't any good side. Let those both relax. And it's actually their relaxing that lets the heart open. The heart has a hard time being open when it's critical of things, and really improving is a form of being critical of things. Something that happens when that relaxes. It's so essential to this experience of enjoyment. All right.